Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening once again. Uh, Good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening once again. I would like for you to share this live stream from wherever you are watching this live stream from. I'd like for you to share this live stream from wherever you're watching this live stream from. You could be tuned in to this live stream from anywhere throughout the United States. I'd love for you to let me know where in the United States you are tuning in from. You could be tuning into this live stream, right? Joining from Canada, perhaps. I'd like to know if you're joining from Canada, right? You may be joining and tuning into this very special broadcast, a very important educational, informational session, so to speak, from the United Kingdom. And greetings to you, mate. Thank you so very much for taking time to join this broadcast. If, in fact, you are joining from the United Kingdom. And thank you so very, very much. Thank you so very much. I am so appreciative and grateful for the growth, right, in membership. There are a lot of members. I believe my last calculation in terms of the members, the total of members in missing, lost, and trafficked Facebook group is about 2.5K. Wow. 2,500 and counting. It's growing. We have, I don't want to say got, but we have Missing, Lost, and Trafficked is a not for profit. I'm getting so mixed up in my words this evening. Media organization, and we have a lot of members in our social media group, our Facebook group. And so welcome, 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 welcome. And I want to talk about human trafficking. I've focused intently on missing persons, right? Reporting on missing persons, reporting on runaway teenagers who have run away from home, right? And they're referred to as runaways, unfortunately. Individuals who have run away from home. I've reported on individuals who just got lost. Like sometimes kids just get lost and need to be found. And a lot of those kids who just got lost, they're back at home. They have been recovered. And definitely, I've done some in-depth reporting on individuals who became victims of foul play. And I've done my very best to investigate the circumstances surrounding homicides, right? Having occurred, having taken place within the past year in 2021. And I'm working on a few cases this year currently. So thank you so very much. What I would like to do, thank you for your support. Thank you for your shares and your cares and your tips. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste some information here on human trafficking into the body of this specific live stream today. I'm not sure why I hardly see anyone joining this live stream whenever I'm going live within the group, but when I'm not live, in the group and I'm live from just my Facebook profile, there are so many individuals joining from like everywhere. That is so odd to me. And so that's part of the reason why I don't host lives as much in this specific group setting, due to it just seems like there's just a lack of participation. I don't know why, but there's definitely a heavy interest, and from folks all over the country who are definitely wanting to keep up with the the news coverage and investigations that is currently being carried out by Missing, Lost, and Trafficked. I do know that I can hardly get any of you folks to join the live. I don't know why. So if you're wondering why I hardly ever host a live stream from the group that I am a founder of, an admin for, is because there's just like a handful of people who will join when I'm hosting a live from my actual group page, So I'm going to stop complaining about that, and I have to post some information on human trafficking, and I want to discuss human trafficking with all of you. I want us to all have a really good, thorough understanding of what human trafficking is, right? I want us to all understand signs of trafficking. It's important that we understand who is most vulnerable, right, to being trafficked. That's very, very important. Who's most vulnerable to being trafficked? What I'm going to do now, before I begin this really, really important discussion, I am just going to begin sharing this live stream. So the first place that I want to share this live stream, I'm going to try to share it to my profile, which is Pebbles Bam Bam profile, right? So I'm sharing this live stream to my profile. Share, okay? I'm in the sharing phase of the live stream right now. And then I'm going to continue sharing this live stream to several groups. I'll share this live stream out to Missing Justice. I'm going to share this live stream out to Detroit Crime and Homicide. I'm going to share this live stream out to Flint Community Conversation. I'm going to share this live stream out to In Pursuit, Missing, and Wanted. I'm going to share this live stream out. I'm continuing to do so. I'll share the live stream with Human Trafficking and Awareness if they permit. I don't know if they'll permit me to share it to their group, but I'm just trying to see, if that will work. I'm sharing the live stream out now to Chicago Girls, Missing Chicago Girls group. And I want to find like 2 more groups. I'll share this live stream out to Justice for Damari Perry. And then I am looking for a few other groups, and then I promise I'll stop sharing this live stream. I'm going to share this live stream to Chicago's Black Business Network. I am going to now share the live stream to Gary, Indiana, and then Blue Lives Matter. And now I have completed the sharing phase of this live stream. Okay. So, what is human trafficking? All right. What is human trafficking? Let's talk about it. Okay. So, the source, right, that I'm referencing, that I'm quoting from, that I'm reading information from, is coming from humantraffickingsearch.org, right? I want to go ahead and type in the source right now. So I'm typing it into this live stream. So human trafficking. Okay. Search. Okay, I got that. .org. That is the source. Human trafficking. Search.org. Okay. Human trafficking and modern day slavery are umbrella terms often used interchangeably. They refer to exploitation of individuals through threat or use of force, abduction, coercion, fraud, or deception. About 40 million people, ladies and gentlemen, 40 million people annually are impacted by some form of trafficking globally. All right. Trafficking includes the practice of forced labor, debt bondage, domestic servitude, forced marriage, and sex trafficking, or more specifically, child sex trafficking, and the recruitment and use of child soldiers, among others. So it's important that you know that there are different forms of trafficking. Every individual that is trafficked in this country and across, right, the world, those individuals aren't necessarily being targeted sexually. Okay, they're not being abused sexually. All of them. There are individuals who are being held captive against their will, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about debt bondage. There are individuals that are being held captive against their will. Usually they are, right, young individuals or young adults in their 20s. Typically not in their 30s, but there are individuals who are trapped in debt bondage. And they're being forced to work, right, long shifts or carry out burdensome, activities. Heavy labor is what I refer to that as, in order to pay off a debt. Okay? So that is one form that I wanted to make sure that everyone understands exists. There's this form, and this is form 1, all right? You got debt bondage. There are individuals who are being literally held, right, against their will. And then there's some psychological, right, manipulation going on with other individuals who aren't just like being caged, locked inside of a house, but it does happen. There are individuals in this country and outside of this country being forced to be personal servants, maids, 24 hours a day, right? With little to no downtime, right, to themselves. There are individuals, this is debt bondage. They are doing what I call heavy labor. One example might be laying bricks or something in the hot sun for hours and hours at a time, right? Working in unsafe working conditions that are not conducive to someone, living out a healthy life. Those individuals are working long hours. There is an enormous amount of activities, responsibilities that those individuals are being tasked with carrying out, and it's for the sole purpose of paying off a debt. They're indebted to an individual, indebted to a corporation, indebted to a group of individuals. And those individuals have not, either they don't have the resources to escape from debt bondage, right? They don't have the resources to escape, right, from debt bondage, meaning their, personal identification, citizenship information could have been taken from them, and they could have been transported to another country. This happens a lot, believe it or not. Very often this happens. So there are individuals who are trapped into debt bondage because they don't have the resources to escape debt bondage. And then there are other individuals, and I discussed this when I was teaching a lesson on human trafficking. That was like 2 years ago now, but I discussed this with a class of mine, and they found that this part to be very enlightening. There are individuals who are psychologically trapped into debt bondage. What does that mean? They believe that they must work themselves to the bone, so to speak, right? Or work in unsafe conditions in order to pay off a debt. And they don't quite realize that's something that that person doesn't necessarily have to do. All right? You can psychologically entrap someone into debt bondage by threatening that individual, making threats, instilling fear. Traffickers thrive mostly on instilling fear into the individuals that they are trafficking. Okay, so it really is a delicate situation, and it's very problematic. Debt bondage in this country, believe it or not, and abroad. I touched on domestic servitude. That's when someone has become a personal servant of an individual or individuals, right? And their movement from the time they wake up to the time that person goes to sleep, they are maids, basically. It's controlled. They don't have control over their life. They don't get to just get up and go to the mall when they want to go to the mall. They may earn little to no earnings at all. A person that is in domestic servitude. Their life purpose has become serving another individual, right? Until that individual releases them, right? Or the person in the domestic servitude escapes that specific type of trafficking situation. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about debt bondage. Want to talk about that, and most of you, right, may have heard of sex trafficking. Okay, so form 2, we got domestic servitude. That's form 2. All right. These are the major forms that I'm going to touch on tonight. And then form 3, there are several forms. These are the top 3 forms, is sex trafficking. Okay. I'm going to delete that comment, and I want to put form 3, right? Sex trafficking. That is the third form of trafficking that I'd like to discuss on tonight. All right. So what is sex trafficking? So let's talk about it. What is sex trafficking? Sex trafficking is human trafficking, right? Trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation. It has been called a form of modern slavery because of the way victims are forced into sexual acts, usually non-consensual, in a form of sexual slavery. That is sex trafficking in a nutshell, so to speak. Anyone selling sex who is under 18 is legally a trafficking victim. Now, I don't want anybody to get confused. You can sell yourself and do something strange, right, for a little piece of change for $40. That doesn't make you a trafficking victim. You're just voluntarily selling yourself or doing something strange for a little piece of change or $40. I hear the prices are going up these days. I don't know. If someone is forcing you, however, to do something strange for a little piece of change or for $40 or less, maybe it'd be $1 or 50 cents, against your will, you're being trafficked. Plain and simple. If someone is threatening you, saying, if you don't get out here and make this money and perform a sexual act, I'm going to take you out. If they're saying stuff like that, if they're showing you a weapon, okay? If they're threatening to do something to your family, your children, or just any kind of physical violence that you may be threatened with, you're being trafficked. If you're just selling yourself, you're not being trafficked. Voluntarily. People voluntarily. I want everybody to understand. I want to break this down. Individuals voluntarily sell themselves all the time. In America and most states, it's a crime. And, there are all sorts of operations to try to crack down on this activity. But it happens all the time. Okay? Those people aren't being trafficked. They need some money and they are exchanging their sexual goods and services for money. The folks that are being trafficked are the folks who are performing sexual acts, whether it be oral sex, anal sex, I'm breaking this all the way down, or vaginal sex, whatever sex it might be. They are performing sexual acts, sexual intercourse, only because they are being forced physically to do so. Those people are individuals who are victims of trafficking. Okay? If I've explained that, well, give me a thumbs up. I like to move on now. Okay, I like to move on. So the human trafficking search.org site says here, the most common forms of exploitation are forced labor, actually, which according to the International Labor Organization impacts 24.9 million people a year. 16 million in private sector exploitation, 4 million state-sanctioned forced labor, and 4.8 million in sex trafficking and forced marriage, which enslaves 15.4 million individuals. That's a lot of folks. The ILO estimates that forced labor generates about or approximately $150 billion in illegal money or illegal profits each year. Wow. Forced labor. Forced labor. Someone forcing you to work. We're just talking about the work. I have to do another live to break down and explain the money that's being made. Physical labor, trafficking. Those traffickers are making about $150 billion in illegal profits each year. The two most commonly known forms of human trafficking are sexual exploitation and forced labor. And I did give you an example of domestic servitude. That is also a form, right? But again, the most common forms are that sexual exploitation and forced labor. In any instance in which an individual engages in a commercial sex act as a result of force, fraud, or coercion is considered sex trafficking, which I just discussed in detail. Sex trafficking also includes the commercial sexual exploitation, right, of children or minors. Forced labor can occur within any form of labor or services. And it is defined as the subjection, of individuals to involuntary servitude, debt bondage, or slavery. In all instances of forced labor, the individual works against his or her will for little or no pay and under the threat of some sort of punishment. Trafficked persons may be forced or coerced to work in a variety of settings, both hidden and in plain sight. Some examples include factories, sweatshops, fields, brothels, massage parlors, right? Online escort services, or street corners as child soldiers or in private homes. The most common industries associated with trafficking in person include agricultural, construction, garment and textile manufacturing, catering, and restaurants, domestic work, entertainment, and the sex industry. Wow. We're learning a lot tonight, aren't we? Learning a lot tonight. Now, I like to talk about some of the warning signs to look for, There are specific warning signs that someone may be being trafficked, or they may be in a trafficking situation that they can't seem to break away from or escape from. We are passing by individuals, driving by them, walking by them, going down the aisles of stores on unknowingly next to folks who are being trafficked. And we don't even know it. We don't know it. It's happening. And there are victims of trafficking because in our minds, we're thinking everyone is just being tucked away, right? Being chained, right? Chained to something and being made to stay in a little room or a little house or a basement somewhere. Not true. There are people being trafficked, and you may have walked past a few of them, may have spoken to them, may have stood in front of those individuals or behind those individuals while you were just waiting to pay for milk and eggs. Oh yeah. And you just don't know it. You don't know what to look for. So I want to talk about signs of trafficking. There are numerous signs, right? And just because you see one specific sign, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone is being trafficked, but I just want you to be aware. If you see someone who appears to be malnourished, that person may or could be a potential victim of trafficking. If the person shows signs of physical injuries and abuse, if that person avoids eye contact or social interaction, that person could be a victim of trafficking. Could potentially be. Not saying, 100% that's the case, but think that person could be a victim of trafficking. Individuals who have rehearsed responses, like you notice something's wrong, you feel something's wrong. I ran into two young girls like this in a laundromat. I'll never forget those young girls. They were probably about 18, 19. I'm just assuming or hoping that they were at least 18 and 19. But it was something real off about them. The way they were dressed and covered up was super weird. They were with this black guy, and I could just tell. I was watching them and their interactions, and he was watching them like a hawk. Like their every movement while we were in this, it was a small laundromat, so they didn't have a lot of space. Even if they were trying to break free, really, to break away, And he was just like eyeing their every movement. I pay attention to a lot. He was just eyeing them. And, and when one had to go into the restroom, I'm just paying attention. He's watching them, and then he walked up on one of them, and whatever he had to say, he said it in their ears, but it was a certain way. And I'm looking at that, paying attention to how he's speaking to them. They did seem afraid. And I could feel it. I could just feel it. And I waited, and till he walked out, and they were in there, and they may have been folding clothes. I can't remember. It was a while ago. And so I asked them, are you okay? Because, I stayed ready to call 911. And so, are you okay? Sure, you look scared. They were just they were in unison with saying to me, yeah, we're fine. But then I looked in their eyes. There was nothing I can really do about it. They all seem to be adults. Those girls seem much younger than him, and what am I going to do? I just had a feeling, right? It was a more rehearsed response they gave me. That's all I'm saying. And they were just on point. They knew exactly what to say. But in their eyes, their eyes were saying something else. And I still don't know what happened or what became of them. But the way they were dressing, like they were back in the 1950s, and he's just dressing like guys typically get dressed around his age. And the way their movements were being monitored, I just really had this feeling that they were almost being held against their will. I just couldn't prove it. When I'm watching and I'm paying attention. So pay attention if somebody has rehearsed, if their responses seem rehearsed, right? If an individual that lacks official identification or documents, that person could be a victim of human trafficking. You meet someone, you see someone outside of a store, someone looks a little off, whatever, and and they don't have a purse on them. Those are telltale signs. That person doesn't have a phone. Pay attention to those young ladies y'all see just out, and you don't see them with a phone, a purse. They have no type of ID or anything, right? That is a telltale sign. But that's not the case in every situation, but that is a sign. All right? Another sign of trafficking, of someone who could be a victim of trafficking, I just want you to know what to pay attention to when you are driving and taking care of your business and you're out and about. Folks lacking personal possessions. I just talked about that. Most females, if they're tricking voluntarily, tricking meaning they're selling sex, they're going to have some kind of purse or phone, okay? If that person lacks personal possessions, any kind of personal possessions, there could be something going on there. If you see that a person is living in their place of employment, that is a sign of human trafficking. Traffickers will brand their victims with tattoos. Traffickers, because I don't know if you're aware, but there are a lot of gangs, including African American gangs, but there are numerous gangs, Latina gangs too, all across the country. They have somewhat aborted, not completely, right? Making drug selling become their come up, and these gangs are trafficking individuals as a way to come up in the world, so to speak. These gangs will brand their victims with tattoos. I don't know if you knew that or not. So, trafficking victims may have tattoos or brandings on their neck. You might see it, a victim of trafficking, or on their lower back. Branding took place in slavery. Yeah, right here in the United States and all across the country. But I studied my U.S. history, right? I don't remember everything, right? I can't remember everything they taught me. But I've learned and relearned and relearned and relearned way back when black folks at least were being enslaved. Black folks were being branded. And today, folks that are being sex trafficked are being branded as well. Okay? So pay attention to that. Also a sign that, and that is not necessarily the case all the time, but a sign of trafficking is small children serving in a family restaurant. That has been identified as a form of, and that would be labor, debt bondage, trafficking, okay? Or some sort of domestic servitude. It would fall somewhere between those two, okay? Forms of trafficking. So pay close attention to small children serving in family restaurants. That's a sign. Another sign is bars covering the inside of windows. We're paying attention. If you happen to see, if you live in a neighborhood and someone has bars on side covering, right, the inside of their windows, yeah, that's something to pay attention to. I lived in an apartment, and I wanted to live in that apartment because there were bars covering the outside of the windows. Thank God my landlord gave me a key to it so I can unlock it in case there was a fire and try to hop out the window. But bars inside of windows and not outside. If you're down south, y'all, I'm talking to folks that maybe live out Memphis and Nashville or other parts of the South. You're used to seeing bars outside of windows. Bars. I lived in an apartment like that. And I was grateful for those bars because, shoot, I was out there in North Memphis, y'all. It's rough. Yeah. So, bars inside of windows, yeah. Someone may be trying to keep somebody from escaping. There is common to see those bars outside of windows, especially if you live down south. That's very common. Okay? Another sign is of that someone may be trafficking. This is the last sign that I will talk about this evening. Is not allowing people to go into the public alone or speak for themselves. If you notice that someone if someone is always next to an individual, and that individual seems to be, intimidated, they seem to be scared, pay attention to that sign. When speaking to someone, if someone steps in and speaks to you on their behalf, pay attention to those signs, right? Okay, pay attention to those signs. Now, I want to talk about who's most vulnerable. Who's most vulnerable to trafficking? Evidence suggests that people of color, right, and the LGBTQ plus community of those individuals are individuals who research evidence. There are so many organizations that have taken time to research what populations of people are identified as being most vulnerable, and the evidence suggests that people of color and the LGBTQ plus community is definitely on that list. Individuals who live in unstable living conditions. Unstable, right? Individuals who are homeless can be victims. They can be victims, become victims. They are victims. Every day, some homeless person is being snatched up. We don't even know what's going on around us. It's happening. And unfortunately, there are sick people forcing those individuals into trafficking. People who have experienced forms of violence. Individuals trying to escape a domestic violent situation or domestic violence, or maybe they've just experienced some forms of violence in the past. Those individuals could be vulnerable. Also, runaways are vulnerable. If you're running away from home, I really hope there are some teenagers who tune into this live stream at some point, and you're out there and you're just at the mercy of whoever you were with. Just know you might end up with somebody else. Yeah, just know you might end up with somebody else. Just understand, if you're running away from home and your mom doesn't know where you are, and your father doesn't know where you are, or your guardian doesn't know where you are, wherever your placement facility may be, those folks don't know where you are. The traffickers, people who intend on luring you for the purpose of selling you and keeping you somewhere doing a whole bunch of stuff you don't want to do against your will, almost 24 hours a day, if not that. They know because you are a runaway, you done left home, you done voluntarily cut off y'all do this all the time. You cut off your location. You do it on purpose. I know you do. I'm reporting on y'all doing this all the time. You think it's smart, but you just setting yourself up to be trafficked. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I got to. You setting yourself up to be trafficked. That adult that you with, that grown man that you with, knows that you done left in the middle of the night, knows nobody in your family has any idea where you are. They don't know, they wouldn't know where to start. When you do it that way, I mean, a lot of y'all kids, teenagers, right? Young folks, you don't even bother to tell your closest best friend what you're going to do. So then your best friend, when things get real and you've been gone for weeks and your BFF knows, I think my friend Shanika ain't mad no more at her mama or her daddy. I think something wrong. Let me tell her mom or dad, she told me she was about to do this, or she gave me this. You don't think to do that. Just in case something happens, it could be something could happen. That man that you sneaking out that window to get freaky with at 2, 3 in the morning can have other plans for you. And I know you thought you was coming back home and you was just going to get your freak on. I'm sorry. I got to keep it a buck or 1,000, 100. I got to. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. I know why you left out the house. I know you thought when you left out that house, young lady, you were going to go and do what you was going to do, and you was going to come back before 6 o'clock when the alarm rang for you to go to school, or before 7. That's what you thought. But you thought wrong, because that man who you just met in the middle of the night hopped in his car. You don't know nothing about him. You just been talking to him online. Hello? On a day nap through Instagram. Your first time meeting him is outside your parents' home or in an alley while everybody sleep at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Come on, y'all. He knows that you're just prey. I mean, he has you right where he wants to have you. With nobody knowing where you are, and they don't even know where to start. Because guess what you didn't even do? You didn't tell. At least, because I can't stop y'all from running away. You guys are going to run away from home. I just report on you. I try to do the best I can to get you back. But I know a bunch of kids are going to run away this week. As soon as I end this live, I'm going to scroll on Facebook, and there will be moms, dads, and uncles and aunties pleading for you to come back home. But I'm just going to tell you for your own good, what if this person you've been talking to has other plans for you? And they intend to do something else other than just a one-nighter with you. Don't you think it'd be smart for you to at least tell a best friend? Hey, just in case something happens, here's the number to this dude I'm about to go to Motel 6 with. Or at least you thought that's where you were going. Okay. I can't be no more realer than that. I know these parents don't want to hear that. But it's the God honest truth. These teenagers, they're being trafficked, thinking in their mind that one thing is going to happen, but then not realizing that the trafficker or the person luring them in that trap got a whole nother plan, and they don't even realize how vulnerable they are once they get into that car. Once you get into that car, and you don't even know, you probably didn't even bother to look in the back seat, did you? His homeboy could be hiding in the trunk or something, so they could subdue you as soon as he drive off, and you just convinced he the only one picking you up. And I guess you might think you got enough hands just in case he on some weird stuff. You don't even know. He probably got a buddy in the trunk or hiding in the back seat. Just something for y'all to think about. I know I ventured a little left. I was supposed to just be talking about who's most vulnerable, and then I have gone a little more in depth with explaining how these teenagers are being trafficked. Oh, I know you thought you was just gonna go smoke some weed. That's what you thought. Yeah, you did. You was going for a session. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, you was just gonna go smoke, and you was coming back home. You didn't know when you got down in that basement, there was 5-6 buddies down there waiting on you. Or they were already at the session. And you already in the basement now, baby. Thought you just gonna go smoke some weed. Stop being so thirsty to smoke. You didn't want your mama to know. You snuck away so you can, yeah. Y'all being lured with drugs too. They had a saying back in the day, she'll go for some dro. That was a saying. She'll go for some dro. Don't go for anything now. For some dro, okay? I know y'all don't want regular weed, okay? I think I'm getting a little bit too real on this live stream. I am going to digress. I got to digress. I'm getting too real on the live stream. Everybody can't handle what I'm saying right now. I'm telling y'all, this is how your 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old, how to be in trafficked. Yeah. Now, individuals who are most vulnerable to being trafficked are juveniles, individuals who are in the juvenile justice system, right? Child welfare system, undocumented immigrants. They're vulnerable too. If you have come into the country illegally, right, and you don't have proper documentation showing that you are a citizen, then to survive, you more than likely will end up working somewhere and getting paid under the table. You're getting paid cash instead of a legitimate check. A lot of the managers, right, company owners, individuals hiring people that are undocumented, individuals who are not legally authorized to live in the United States, they take advantage of you when you're undocumented. They may make you work longer for less money. They may pay you a few dollars less than other individuals, okay? If you speak little to no English. If that's what you're saying to folks, no English. If that's what you're saying when people are talking to you, no English, you could be a victim. Somebody's going to take advantage of the fact that you're over here in the United States of America and you speak no English. It's happening all around us every day. Every single day. Family members, or I'm going to break it down like this. Children whose mothers and fathers are on drugs, they are more vulnerable than anybody, in my opinion. That is happening in just about every demographic group across the United States. Nah, it ain't just black folks selling their kids. No. Any child living with a parent with a drug problem can and will be sold. And they're being sold right now as we speak. Yeah. There are parents. You worried about the stranger. I know. You worried about the stranger. You think it's always some strange person. Nope. It starts at home. A lot of times it starts at home. It's not saying it's not the stranger. Your worst enemy is your own mom and dad. Mommy and daddy on cocaine. Mommy and daddy on crack. Mommy and daddy on pills. Mommy and daddy on meth. Those children are in a world of trouble. There isn't a limit to what somebody will do, unfortunately, because drug addiction is a sickness. I'm not shaming or talking down on people who have been on drugs. There really isn't much of a limit in terms of what that person is willing to do to get drugs. One of the most vulnerable people, vulnerable to sex trafficking, are children being most vulnerable to their drug-addicted parents. It's frightening. I really believe it is much harder to escape a drug-addicted parent at 5 years old who may be trafficking you than a 30-year-old pimp at 16 years of age. That's my opinion. I remember reading a story about a woman who sold her daughter to a grown man. This was a child. He was captured on surveillance footage with the girl over his shoulder, walking that girl into a hotel. He was on a hotel floor. She ended up being murdered. Let's just say that much. Her mama sold her, and she was murdered. I don't even want to think about the unspeakable things he did to that child. She was murdered. I know of a young girl right now. Well, she's a grown woman now. I grew up with. Her family voluntarily allowed a man to rape her. And somebody in my family heard the rape. She wasn't no more than 7 to 8 years old. Her family voluntarily allowed a man in our neighborhood, we all knew who he was, to rape her. Then they called the police because she was hemorrhaging. Lied and said she was hemorrhaging because I guess the middle part of the bite, they lied. Liars. It had been raining that night. They lied and said she was hemorrhaging. We all knew that her family was just hard up for whatever they can get, I guess. It wasn't much. He didn't have nothing. Stayed with his mama. He was later killed. Calmer. But, yeah. Her family just let that happen. Yeah, they let him come right on in the house and rape her. Yeah. She wasn't no little kid. It's what I know about coming up. Oh yeah, and another thing, I hope that everyone has learned something that maybe you didn't already know about trafficking. This may have been a lengthy live stream, but it was a well needed one, I guess. I don't talk about trafficking as much, and I want to personally make a personal, concentrated effort to focus on trafficking, right? The name of the organization is Missing, Lost, and Trafficked. So I'm going to make sure I will be reaching out to victims of trafficking. Some of them may be reaching out to me, and we will be doing having some discussions. Okay? But before I end this live, I want you to know, just because your child ran away from home doesn't mean that your child's being trafficked. There are telltale signs of that, but that's just not necessarily the case. Most of the time, most of the teens I reported on, they were not being trafficked. They simply ran away from home, and their parents didn't know where they were. And they made their parents go through hell to find them. That's just what happened in a nutshell. Do I report with less enthusiasm because I know that this is a child that ran away from home and purposely cut off their phone, and they purposely cut off their location? They purposely deactivated their Facebook page. They purposely set their Instagram on private. Nope. I keep that same energy. I'm reporting on that child. I'm reporting on your 16-year-old, your 17-year-old, your 15, 14, 13, 12. I'm reporting on them as if you seen somebody snatch them out in front of you, right? On a hot summer's day. I give that they're being reported on, right, with the same urgency as a baby that an Amber Alert just got issued out for. Why? Why would I put that much energy into reporting on your kid? I know the child ran away. I know. When you tell me that somebody, nope, they cut their own phone off. They're doing it. But I keep the same energy. I keep the same energy because I know that your child could potentially be a victim of human trafficking the longer they stay away from home, with their locations cut off and their phone cut off, thinking they smarter than everybody. So yeah, that's why I report and go so hard. I go real hard. Somebody say, ooh, you went out. Yeah. Because I know while they're out there, they might have left with Johnny, but then they end up with Paul. And Paul a whole mess out here in these streets. Paul is a pimp. They don't even know it. I know your child might end up getting passed around. Yeah. I know your child gonna end up experiencing some things that they wouldn't have experienced if they just would have stayed at home. Yeah. So that's why I keep that same energy. That's why I keep the same energy for the child that ran away. And I know that child is doing everything they can on purpose to frustrate you. They don't care about you losing sleep. I lost sleep. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't work. A mama told me one time, I just lost my job. Lost a job. Trying to figure out where her child is. She just I know your child not thinking about nothing you going through, unfortunately. And it's sad. And they'll think about it when they turn 35. They don't. Some of them do it as retaliation. They don't. I mean, you could just stroke out during that time. And the empathy is just not there, unfortunately. But all of them aren't being trafficked. I gotta say that. I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, I'm not saying don't be concerned about it, but, yeah, they're not all being trafficked. Nope. They voluntarily at somebody's house that's grown, that's keeping them away from home, Either when they get found by the police, discovered by a civilian, or they get tied and they end up not having no peace where they are, they'll be back home. That is exactly how this whole situation with a lot of these teens are going to play out. Because there are teenagers who are being trafficked, I want us to say, stay vigilant, and I want us to be paying attention to these teens, to young women, men, and boys. We're paying attention to all of the signs that I discussed, the signs that someone may be a victim of trafficking. Okay, so I plan to host other live streams. I really want to focus on trafficking. I got to. It's important. I plan to even take some courses on trafficking so I can become more and more knowledgeable about trafficking myself. I have knowledge, right? Intermediate knowledge, but I want to become advanced, okay? So I'll be working to, advance myself in the area of trafficking myself. And I hope that the knowledge that I'm able to obtain will definitely be helpful, to everyone in the Facebook community and abroad. I thank y'all so very much for taking time to watch this live stream. If you are watching this live stream today, I would love for you to share, 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 and share again. I want y'all to have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.